like the thing that I chose for today is essentially something that everyone I believe like should start off with. Like it's an AMM essentially. Some of you could have like done it probably. It's the caviar contest on Cold Arena, but like the first one from December 2022. So it's essentially like I'm going to give you a brief of it so you can like understand it. So it's a NFT to ERC20 token AMM, which is essentially here to like make it possible to trade NFTs, mainly floor NFTs for ERC20 tokens. The contract that we're going to be looking at is essentially the pair contract, which is like the singular pool between an NFT and a token. And like I guess I'll leave like the repo when we like finish. So like the methodology that I like taking is to first try and get a abstract of like the whole concept of the protocol, which in this case is very simple because like I believe like most of you know what an AMM is. Here it's a bit different because we have an NFT instead of a second token, but it's still like very close to mind. It's very simple to understand, so everyone should be very familiar with it. At least I hope so. Uh, the way I like starting with it is, like I said, like getting a brief of it, and then I like go straight into the contracts. I don't like diving deep into the documentation because it tends to overwhelm me, at least in my case. I don't know if it's like the same with you guys. You
Yeah,
may
for
have
me it's
like
the
different
same.
tolerances. Yeah, yeah, okay. Like I get overwhelmed with stuff very easily, so I like start take very small steps most of the time. So in this case, like we simply start with the pragma, we check it, like we see that it can be a floating one, like we can compile it with multiple versions, it will probably work. Then we like see the imports, nothing is interesting here, then they're importing like their normal stuff. And this is the bulk of it. Like uh those things I like skipping for now because they overwhelm me as well in the events. Like it's a lot of code and a lot of like characters that overwhelm me. So I like just straight going into the first function. Um, I try to get a glimpse of what it's doing. In this case, we see that it's essentially a way for a depositor to add liquidity to the protocol. In this case, they're simply providing the same value of a token and a fractional token, which is their NFT converted into fractional tokens based on the price of an NFT compared to like in tokens in the current pool. And they're providing a minimum LP token amount in this case. We can also see that it's marked payable, so the pool should also work with ETH, like the native token that the chain that it is deployed on supports. So we can like see some basic checks, the normal like stuff. We're not providing zero liquidity, we cannot do that. We can see if it's like if the base token is the zero address, we are expecting one of the tokens in the protocol to be ETH. Then we need to check the message value, so we don't like try and provide it, but we don't have the message value. It's a simple like check. We then get a quote for like what the LP token amount we can get with like the liquidity we want to provide. They're doing a simple check to see if like the minimum expectation we have is appropriate in this case. Then they're transferring the liquidity uh, out of us and getting it. Like we should have approved it beforehand, of course. And they're minting us liquidity after that. Like they're minting us the vault tokens in this case, the pool tokens. Then if the base token isn't ETH, they're getting the base token because if the base token is ETH, they need to like get it with the message value, and if it's near C20, they need to get it with the transfer from, just so they can keep track of who gave him what, and not like allow users to get additional like tokens and additional liquidity by like getting some So essentially, it's like not good for the protocol. Like it cannot be done in this case. So the way I like approaching the function and dissecting it is to like not check those functions. This is an internal ERC20 function, but we're like skipping it. We are simply commenting it out in this case. I'm simply going to do that,
Why, Chris?
and
Just so you can
yeah,
only see the
the only
checks?
what?
Just so you can only see the require statements and try
Yes,
to.
essentially. So I just want to focus on one thing at a time so I don't get overwhelmed. I understand how the execution is going
That's
and
really interesting.
not yeah, and essentially stay focused in what I'm doing. Um, I essentially get the tokens here, and I start brainstorming about what type of a token I can like add here essentially. Like, can I have the same thing here? Can I like provide disproportionate amounts of liquidity to offset the pool's balance and essentially screw the MMM without actually like incurring big losses in this case? Then I see if I can like do something with this. Of course, when we're dealing with ERC20, we should be thinking of ERC777 because it has callbacks. I'm going to like think of a way I'm going to be able to do stuff with a callback. We can see that this protocol, like the code base, doesn't use non-reentrant. Like it doesn't check itself against reentrancy, so we can definitely do something with that. And in this case, we can essentially probably uh, get our liquidity of tokens here before actually depositing it. So this is a little state change, like time in which like the state isn't like correct. So this is a small knob. After like seeing something that is not very appropriate and is a little strange, I like just doing an audit tag, like saying that we are getting the two tokens before depositing the native depositing the two token liquidity. So in this case, we are not providing the liquidity before getting those tokens. And because ERC777 has a before send callback, essentially, I don't remember the exact name, we get code before the tokens being taken out of us. And we also have this thing, so essentially we can do stuff with it. Then I'll leave the function out like that. I'll simply comment those things on so we can actually do stuff with them if we run tests and not get like strange results. Then I'll simply like go and scour every other function in the protocol for the same stuff. We can see that here the case is exactly the opposite of the add function. Like we can see that we get our tokens burned before our liquidity getting sent to us, which is like intended in this case. Like it should be like that. These are like the deposit and remove liquidity functions. Then we can see the buy and the sell functions, which are essentially the way of like swapping your type of liquidity. We see that we're buying fractional tokens from the pair, which means that we're buying special fractional tokens with which we can then buy an NFT from the protocol. Not buy it, but unwrap it essentially here. We're essentially providing the token ID that we want to unwrap. We are checking how many fractional tokens it will be, and then we're burning this amount from us, and then are like sending them to us. We should also like check that this is going to call us back because it's using the safe transfer function. So there is another opportunity for reentrancy again. Like it's again a knob, it's not like something concrete. Like we don't know if there is a valid finding here. We can simply do an audit and say that we get code before every actually after every NFT sent to us. And essentially, I'm doing all of this for the whole protocol, like the whole function, like the whole functionality that we can see. Um, and I'm essentially trying to gather as many of those small things, and then I try and turn them into something bigger, like trying to combine stuff, mix and match, I guess. And in this case, I believe there was something in here that was problematic. I'm not exactly sure where, but we can like check it out. So I in this case, like in the buy function, we can see that there is a buy quote. Like we're getting the quote here, we're getting what amount we can buy with this output amount, like what amount we need to input so we can get this amount of fractional tokens. Then we're transferring out the NFT from us to, we're actually transferring the fractional tokens to us, like we're getting them. And then after that, we're getting the yeah, we're like getting the ETH or the normal ERC20 tokens, which is again like strange. But I'm trying to like find like a way of like providing false inputs. It doesn't like need to be like a critical every time. Like we simply need to find an intended behavior that we can escalate. Um, yeah, it doesn't always need to be something very critical. We just need to find a way of breaking the intended state of the function and trying to exploit it with this. Again, we can like turn back to like the first thing that we found, that we're getting the OP tokens before actually giving them the money. So in this case, we can burn those. Like I believe it was here. We can burn them, and if we are again using an ERC777, when we burn them, when we are going to get called here, and it's essentially a situation in which we get our money, like the liquidity we've deposited, without actually giving all of it to the protocol beforehand, and we can essentially try and buy an NFT out, like use it for something, maybe claim an airdrop or something. Like in this case, it's not very concrete at the moment, but still, we can simply check it out later. Like I'm going to give a like add another audit tag here. We get called before the base before we have sent the ERC777 tokens. If we do some sort of reentry with the buy function. And this is like the way I'm trying to do it with the whole protocol. Like this is one of the things I like doing. And in this case, when I've like found a knob, the thing I like doing actually is not to like try and escalate it right away, but I would probably like close my computer right at this point and go for a walk, essentially. I'll leave it out.
Nice.
I'll let my mind like think of
Flow a
ways
little
to
bit.
exploit it. Yeah, I'll not try to again overwhelm myself, because not with this code base specifically, but complexity can really get to you. Like you get like imposter syndrome in most cases even, which brings your morale down, I'd say. Like it doesn't allow you to function properly, which again isn't good for you actually finding those things. And there may be even something even crazier than a simple reentrancy. Maybe like we can do some crazy sort of flash loan attack Maybe we like stake those NFTs somewhere, we do something, we like sell them somewhere else, try and doing some MEV. Like there's lots of possibilities, and that's why like I like simply closing my computer and trying to like cleanse my mind so I can think, with a clear perspective and not uh essentially get the whole complexity of the protocol get to me, which is like the best, like the worst thing that we can like let it do to us, at least in my opinion. Um, but yes, the main approach I like taking depends on, of course, like what the code base is to essentially try and find some edge case state changes, which then lead to something bigger when you combine them with some strange vector, I'd say. Like it can even be a reorg attack or something else. Like you just need to think creatively, let those scenarios like go through your mind, and
Nice.
yeah, it's very hard to actually explain because it's a very strange process.
I understand.
It
Very
isn't
personal.
something that I, yeah, yeah. Also, like the approach that someone is taking is very case by case, I'd say as well. I don't think like my exact process that works for me most times, because like it doesn't always, of course. I don't think like that this process will work for you if you have a different thought process, if your mind like works differently. It's very uh, specific, and it's something that everyone should develop on themselves and see what works for them. But my main approach is to simply let creativity do its job without like bothering myself with too much and putting too much on my plate, of course. We can also check out some other functions, I guess, like and see what they can like do. Uh, guess we can like even go to a different file and see what the other files have. This is a simple ERC20, so we're not even going to like check it out. It's simply, I believe, it gets initialized here. So this is the um fractional token for the NFTs. Like we don't even need to check it out. It's very straightforward. And this is the poo factory, I believe. What can we see here? They have a create function with the NFT, the base token. The Merkle, I believe this was for like yes, validating token IDs. And then we get a pair. They're validating whether the pair is like existing or not. Then they get the base token symbol. Uh, this thing is yes, this is very concerning, I guess. First of all, they're not casting it at all. And oh, maybe they're using some library, at least. Yeah, Neymar. But still, if it's like if the ERC20 token isn't compatible with like the ERC20 metadata, it may fail.
Yeah.
Check,
Is that a
check
medium, a
for
low, a quality? What is the level
it's a
there?
medium. I guess it's a medium, but because like some bigger tokens like have this issue, but it's
Okay.
nothing very like critical. It will
Okay.
simply
Okay.
not allow you to do anything with it. Yeah, tokens that are not compatible with these 20 metadata. Then I'm probably going to like write a foundry test or like what the protocol supports. We can see that it also has the token symbol check. It has the same issue probably, like the token name and the token symbol. I believe maker tokens do that. Then they're simply like using the normal way of creating this, like creating the contract. Let's see if they're passing like the things properly. Yes, they are. Then they're giving the stuff for the ERC20 token, I believe. Is it how they are doing it? NFT name, per symbol, NFT symbol. Yes. So they are simply giving it all the params that it needs to like initialize the token and initialize the pool itself. They're setting the address and then they are like creating it. A strange thing is that they have a destroy function, which is very like strange to see in this case. There is the pair for the given NFT, base token, and Merkle root. Uh, they're checking whether the pair also essentially the pair is destroying itself. Maybe it has some arbitrary execution function. Let's see. So quote control close NFT. So I don't see one actually, but I don't like exactly think of a way of how they're going to do it then. Maybe they okay, it's French. Let's simply leave another audit tag here and check it out later. Um, check for how the pair is supposed to call this. Like most of the questions that you like write out to yourself don't even need to be something very complex and very into the protocol's logic. You just need to like leave notes for yourself to remember what your thought process was when you were like finding those things, like those little things that like gave you an impression. You're simply like searching for them so you can like gather context on it. The goal for you is not to like get the same understanding of the protocol as the person who wrote it, because if you do, you're not going to find anything. Like you need to have a very clean perspective on it and be very uh how is like the word I need to actually use in this case? You need to be very pragmatic and to essentially question everything that you see, even if it's a dumb thing that you are going to disprove in like a minute after you like read a little bit of docs or do whatever. Like you just need to document it for yourself and ask questions. Not always ask like the right questions because you can't make sure that you understand the whole protocol. Like there may be some logic that you still don't get that may like get in your way and actually disproves this vector or whatever. You just need to ask yourself questions, and eventually, with asking enough questions, the right questions will get sifted out, and you will essentially find something no matter what.
Nice.
Like that's the way of how I view it. In most cases, of course, like there is always exceptions, and every protocol deserves a different perspective, I guess, because every protocol like uses different stuff and like has different prerequisites to it. But yes, you should be very pragmatic about how you're thinking and ask questions. This is probably like the most important part. No matter how dumb they are, just ask them. Like leave them out for yourself, or if you're doing it in a team, which is like the best thing that you can do for yourself. Just ask your teammate or your buddy like, does this work? Can I like do this and do that and get this amount of value without providing any or whatever? You simply need to ask questions and stuff will come out eventually.
It's about
Yeah.
resilience, right? It's about keep on trying, thinking on different ways, how. And do you have an approach to state machines? Like, do you keep flows of the function and everything?
Uh, I like trying things. Essentially, I like trying to check what value I cannot reach. So for example, like if we see this wrap function, we see that we're providing it an arbitrarily length token IDs array. Like this may be a good example even for state machines. We're providing it an array. And what if, like, again, we can ask ourselves a question. What if we provide like the same token again and again, like that? Simply like what will happen here, like can we somehow reach some type of state that like isn't reachable normally? Like what are we going to break? What is going to happen in this case? We just need to sift out the invariants and stick with them so we don't like consider absolutely everything, because like everything is possible, but maybe not always. We just need to be very uh like spot on with what we're trying to like check. Like in this case, we can probably like see that they're checking whether Um, oh,
Do you do
we can't actually
fuzzing
get it.
in these cases, or you
I don't.
just
Like in most cases, I don't. Uh, I like going through the whole uh different values and like random stuff in my head. Like for some reason, it works better when I do it in my head. Like
interesting
I
approach,
cannot
like very
explain. Yeah, I cannot
methodical?
explain. And again, we can see that in this function, it's checking all the tokens one by one without actually checking for whether the proof is the same and the token is the same. So this is definitely a problem. Audit in the token IDs array and the proofs array can be of the same repeating value. Then we can simply return back to what we were looking at previously, if we can like find it in this case, because I got a little lost. Where was it? I believe it was that function here. We can see that we are checking like the length. We're going to get minted that amount of fractional tokens actually. So uh, even though we had the like only one token that we could prove, we can actually wrap. We can actually get much more fractional tokens here. And then again, if it's near C720, like it's near 721 here, so after the first NFT gets sent to us, actually it's going to fail. But is there a way of us actually doing something with the NFT, donating it back to the protocol somehow, doing something with it again, or actually there might even be a vector where we donated, this doesn't fail, and we actually are able to uh, do some sort of a reentrancy with the buy function here. Like this is on a very bad sort of state that the protocol shouldn't have been able to reach, but as you can see, like it is able to. So in this case, this is not going to fail. We're going to get the amount because it's in ERC20. Like it doesn't check for if the token is like selected multiple times. And here we're going to get it for the first time, and then we can do stuff with it. Maybe like deposit it into the pool. We're going to get like pool tokens this way. Then it's going to be in the pool, so it's going to send it to us again. We're going to sell it again. We're going to essentially do a very strange type of reentrancy and get a very good amount of tokens. This may be a high, I'm not sure, but it's still a very strange vector, like it's sort of an unreachable state, and I believe it actually very well represents how certain types of states shouldn't be able to be reached, just so like the protocol is safe.
Nice, really
In this
interesting,
case.
but really weird. So in this case, you would be unwrapping more ether because you're able to reuse the same NFT, right?
Yes, essentially, if you deposit it to the protocol, you're going to like get it again because this is going to keep on looping and you're going to be able to do whatever you want with it. You're going to get like a very big amount of tokens, and after the reentrance like stops, you're probably going to be able to like take almost all the protocol's liquidity.
Awesome.
This is a very like low hanging fruit in this case. Like it didn't take that much time to find un supposedly unreachable state. So this is definitely a very good example for like some types of state which shouldn't be reachable.
Interesting. It's nice. I mean, I guess one thing that maybe could help you is some sort of automation. You don't think so? To get out, do you do actually some LLM? Do you run through ChatGPT? Do you do this approach, or do you go straight to the code?
To be honest, the only thing I use ChatGPT for is to help me understand some financial concepts because I'm very new to finance. Like not DeFi, but like what is a perpetual and what is like alone,
Yeah.
like those type of stuff. I don't like use it for code because from personal experience it hallucinates way too much. I don't trust it at all, so I prefer to not use it at all, like for these things.
Eh,
In my opinion, AI is only good for uh I suppose some sort of creative stuff and not for actual like
And what
logic.
about Leader,
I
Metro?
Can you repeat please?
What about Slither, Metro? Are you running these
I actually
tools?
don't like I don't run them because in most cases
Nice.
like if you're like doing the C4 contest, they have probably like run it and have gotten like the automated findings. There's people with amazing bots and essentially like sift through all the stuff that they found and you memorize them from there and yeah, I don't like running those tools because there's people with much better tailored solutions now who I can like learn from much faster. So yeah, I don't like use neither like automated stuff nor I use ChatGPT for like technical stuff.
Interesting, bro. And you also have quite some experience working in pairs, right? You've been working with Xerox Triby, you've been working with, Owen and Johnny Time. What is the difference between auditing together? You think it helps you learn more, be faster? What is the process in there?
So on Twitter, like people have been talking about closing the event, like not the event loop, very dumb obsessed, uh, closing like the feedback loop. It's very like trivial to like think of it these days, but it actually helps you close that event loop. Oh my God, man. Close that feedback loop and actually helps you understand the protocol much faster because, like I said, you can ask very dumb questions without absolutely any context on the protocol itself and still understand a lot of stuff because you're two different people with two different brains and
Nice.
you understand different stuff at a different pace and you can essentially help each other out understand stuff that you're not very good at. So definitely when you can always work with a team, like this is did the Discord fall off? No, let's see.
No, no,
Okay.
it was just a little bit of a drop. Chris, for someone that's starting, bro, what is the alpha you have? I mean, a lot of people will hear this and they are, just now diving into smart contract security, how to be as fast as possible because you not have been doing this for so long, right?
Like under 4 months, I believe.
Yeah, bro, give us the
So
alpha.
yeah, so the things I believe someone just starting out should do is find a teammate, do practice audits, and don't allow yourself to get overwhelmed. These are like the three things I didn't do, and this is why I didn't progress as fast as I wanted even. Uh, so yes, definitely find a good teammate that you definitely like working with. Like I had the chance to meet a lot of those people, and I really like working with them. Um, this is like probably the most important thing that you can do to elevate yourself. Even if you guys aren't like very into crypto yet, if you guys have a analytical mind, if you guys are very pragmatically thinking, you can definitely do a lot of stuff in very little time if you have enough discipline and perseverance together. This is like the most important thing that someone can and should definitely do. Then the second thing I believe is because like if you see like Sherlock and C4 at the moment, they are posting and hold like very complex code bases, which are not good for people who are just starting out. You cannot give someone who doesn't have that much experience like all of those very complex and abstract concepts and very big code bases. So definitely look into doing practice audits. Like this is a very good example of a because it's not very bad, but it has a lot of hanging fruit, some stuff very early on, like for like you out high and boost your confidence, which is very important in this case. Like if you don't feel confident enough, you're not going to progress at all. Your progress is like solely reliant on like the way you feel. It's very strange to like
Don't get
describe,
overwhelmed.
but yes, you need to feel like you can crush the whole world. If you don't, you're not. Essentially, you need to be very
Amazing.
straightforward with yourself. Do not overwhelm yourself, as I said, and I said beforehand. Do not get overwhelmed. Like if you go into like the NFT add function here, and you don't understand what happens in this add function, like it's very complex. Yeah, it's like 50 lines or something. It's very complex. Like you don't get why this requires here, like why they're transferring the liquidity, like the fractional tokens from me to the contract. What are they doing? Just simply leave it out for now. Try and grasp everything else that you can like grasp in a very short amount of time. Go take a break, maybe take a nap even. Go work out or something. Like do something that is actually going to help you think better than return to this thing and start thinking of it in very bite-sized pieces. Maybe like focusing yourself only on this require. Why is it here? Like why? What does it do? What sort of state situation does it guard me from? Again, the same for this. Then maybe doing some sort of a breakdown on this function. And also, don't hesitate to add comments. If you see like a cloned version of a code base I've like looked through, you see 50 audit tags for like 100 lines of code. I like leaving all sorts of dumb notes for like whatever. I don't care. Like, don't treat the code as something that you cannot touch. Treat it as a toy that you need to break somehow. So maybe bang it against the wall or do whatever. You simply need to find a way that works for you. For me, it is breaking it both like logically and like leaving whatever I want so I can understand everything.
Really interesting, bro. I have a few questions for you here. The first question is, how do you rate bugs from low to high?
That's a very uh, relative question, but it's not that hard to answer. So although is something that has a very low likelihood and is probably not going to cause you that many problems. Maybe something that you can live with, some sort of a questionable decision, maybe even. Like why does this like keep on executing when it is going to emit an empty event or maybe a precision loss of one way or something. Something very small, which the protocol doesn't like, isn't like going to have much problem with keeping. The medium is something that either has a low likelihood or is not going to cause much damage. Because a medium can even be something very critical, but that's going to happen once in a billion years or something. But it largely depends, because this may even not count as a medium in some cases. So a medium for me is something that either has a very low likelihood and has some potential high impact, or something that has low to medium impact but is happening quite frequently. Uh, it can be like getting those tokens before uh, like depositing your tokens and then being able to get an NFT, claim an airdrop with it, or sell it somewhere for a bit of profit and then return here and get just a bit of money without actually having the capital beforehand. Like stuff like that, which isn't very critical but is actually impactful to the protocol somehow. And then a high is a very broad concept because you can have a high and you can have a high, which is a critical in like most other places. So a high is something with a high impact that is either like not that likely to happen, but it's likely to happen, and is probably very hard to execute upon. This is like the definition of a high that I have. So let's say that there is a vector that can like do like probably like lock 5% of the protocol's TVL or something, like clock it. But it needs to like have the specific prerequisites, and the attacker needs to have, let's say, one Ethereum to burn or something. It should be very hard for the attacker to execute upon, or not that hard, but like complicated and very tricky. And it should be not like entirely critical. And then a critical is pretty straightforward. It's essentially very easy to execute upon, and breaking core contract logic in all sorts of ways. Like a high does the same, but is very hard to execute upon relative to critical, essentially.
Did you have any possibilities of scaling a bug, like getting it as a medium and turning it into a high?
Again, it depends on like how you can think and how many breaks you take. Again, as I said, when I find something that looks suspicious, I don't bother trying to escalate it right away. I go on a break. I think of the exact state that I have on in my hands at the moment. Like let's say I have some tokens that don't aren't supposed to be in me at a specific time, and I can do something with them. Then I like go like do whatever and think, what if there's a reorg attack in that same moment?
Yeah.
What if someone
Replay attacks. Oh, I think we lost Chris. Can you guys still hear me? We can see.
Great. Okay. So where were we? I believe we were in
We're talking about the
talking about,
reorgs and replay attacks, that how you can see and scale an attack.
yeah. Essentially, you just need to find some sort of a unintended behavior part and start escalating it somehow. Again, thinking of crazy scenarios. Then like trying to disprove them yourself. Maybe you're thinking of uh, like a way of doing a signature replay. What if I'm calling from an L1 to an L2 and I'm trying to uh, like I'm using a bridge between mainnet and optimism, let's say, because there we have like the same origin and stuff. Can I like do a replay this way?
Yeah,
Can I
interesting.
make the transaction revert somehow? Yeah.
Another question that I have here is, I think something that we went through, but we can touch upon fast is, do you usually go for docs or code first?
Can you repeat it, please?
Yes. When starting a new audit, usually you go for documentation or for the code first.
Uh, Hugely depends. The smaller the code base, the more likely I am to go straight in the code. Uh,
Nice.
it's very self-explanatory. Like if there is not that much complexity, you can dive right into it and get the context very easily out of the code, because the code is something that actually gives you the most context when reading it. The documentation can be very deceiving. It can uh, include the bias of the developer. So I like going for the code most of the time. But if the code base is bigger, you should definitely go for the docs first so you can grasp at least what the protocol does.
Really cool. Another question is, after learning about Web3 and blockchain, usually how long does it take to audit a smart contract? Like, let's say 100 lines.
So let me rephrase it. You mean how much time does it take from being a complete beginner to auditing something?
No, how much time takes you today to audit, let's say, 100 lines smart contract?
You mean like like what amount of code I can audit per day? So
Yes.
I am very slow. I am very slow. I like doing let's say 100 to 300, depending on how complex the code is. Um, mm, Again, depends on the protocol, depends on what the specific functionality is. I like going slow. I like thinking of whatever I can. I like finding those edge case things. So yes, I go for a very small amount, but trying to like find as much as I can in it.
Awesome. Another question is, what is the process on deciding which code bases to use for practice audits?
Uh, I would say there is multiple approaches you can take. One of them is to simply go to Solid or to the Code Arena website and simply search for a report or a finding that has the most duplicates, or maybe even multiple ones in the same code base that have multiple duplicates. It's pretty often a marker that the code base has some low-hanging fruit that you can catch. Again, it's about confidence. It's about like how you carry yourself and about the things you can find so you can progress the fastest. So essentially, go on Solid, find a protocol that has multiple findings with multiple uh, duplicates, and go to the code base, audit it, like go through it maybe for a day or two, and then check the report.
Awesome, awesome, bro. Question from Azarian is, do you also think that Sherlock judging is a good way to practice?
I do, but the system isn't very optimized at the moment. Like it's going to be in a few days, like from July 1st onwards. It's very good, but there is a lot of duplicates which are essentially nonsense. Like people who just submit nonsense. So if you have like 300 findings and 250 of them are essentially BS and you do not learn anything from them, why bother doing whatever? That's like the main problem I have with auditing, with judging on Sherlock, and that's why I don't do it. Uh, but yes, I believe you can do a lot of stuff if you've like audited for a month. You can probably get a lot of additional context on like the protocol. But it's a double-edged sword. There's a lot of shit essentially.
I understand, I understand. Another question that we have here is, do you usually order your contracts, like where you're going to start from based on the total scoped lines? Because sometimes it's hard to track the user flow and documents can be useless. So I guess how you
I
order your
completely
contracts, when starting.
I do not. I like so if there is, let's say we're auditing some sort of a protocol that has like a factory and like child contracts that get deployed, I go from the factory onwards because this is a very natural approach to take in this case. But it's like very dependent on the code. The protocol is a huge variable in this case. So I guess go for whatever catches your eye first and whatever you feel the most comfortable with. Again, it's about doing what you feel the most comfortable with so you don't get overwhelmed.
I don't get, there's a question here, is there any reputable certs? What are certs? I don't understand.
Maybe he's talking about some
Certifications about what? About
yeah,
like
maybe he's
auditor?
talking about SEH.
I mean, there's a few certifications, but I just do securium,
Yeah, I completely agree with that actually. Let me like pardon a bit. Okay. Like I don't get what you mean in this. What was your first audit pay out of if you had any valid findings but back then? So I believe I'm not exactly sure.
I remember it was $20, wasn't it?
No, actually, I believe because the process of me starting to audit is very complicated. I did 2 days of wandering around in January. I got overwhelmed, but I had submitted something with the people from the Bulgarian community. Yeah, like $2. It
Nice.
was something that I didn't understand, like, and then I dropped auditing for like 3 months and then returned back to it. And the first actual like reward I got was $20 from my first actual like contest that I did, I believe.
And I remember there was 20, then was 2000, and we're about to see the 20,000 coming, bro.
I hope so.
How does it feel to
Uh,
make a good payout with a finding? How did you felt there?
uh, it was good, of course. Like in in this day and age, like Code for Arena doesn't pay that much money, like compared to what it was paying like a year ago. But like again, it's a lot of money for that little effort. It was very fun. The finding was very strange, I'd say. Like it was again on a very strange state uh
I understand.
situation.
Very
And
typical, very
yes,
unique.
it was good. Of course. Yeah, but I'd say like it felt good. Like I cannot explain it completely.
Awesome. So, a question for Mozarian. So, the best way to learn is to do an audit of a past content contest with a lot of findings and duplicates.
Yes. Still depends on where you are in terms of like your path. But if you are someone who is relatively a beginner, yes.
Um,
Go ahead, do a contest and like do a practice audit and boost your confidence so you can like perform better for an actual one.
awesome. Another question that I have from next is how long to get your first valid finding starting from the day you started learning?
Again, it was very strange. I got my first actual finding like a day into auditing. I wasn't the one finding it. I was essentially just listening to the group and the people guided me, essentially. I got a high with 50 duplicates, I believe. And then the first actual finding that I had was a medium on my first actual contest, in like early April or May. But like essentially on the first contest that I participated in.
Another question that I have here, you don't have to answer this one, is regarding okay, so since you're underage, how is your money situation with banks and such? You said you earned 5K in May. Did you do something with it? Did you have any issues or document you have to file to withdraw your money?
Uh, as you know, Bulgarian banks trade crypto as essentially you taking money out of like, the stock market. So I just need to file a tax declaration like next year. That's it. The wait times and the fees from the banks were very dumb, but still, like I hate banks, and that's why I hold my capital in crypto.
Awesome. So another question that I have is what do you do when you get stuck on auditing?
Move on.
Just
Like
move
that's
on.
the
Just
yeah.
go.
Move on. Do something. Look at another part of the code. If you don't understand the concept, go take a walk. Maybe look at a YouTube video. Whatever. Simply cleanse your brain a bit.
Awesome. How much time did you wait, and what was the percentage of tax on the money? I think this topic is very underrated, but important for some countries.
It's the normal capital gains, I believe 10%. Like it's very liberal in this country. It's not very high.
Okay, okay. My friend, I'm gonna stop the questions because I know you're very busy. I'd like to thank you so much for the time and what you did for us today here. And I wanted to ask if you have any closing thoughts.
Uh, do not allow yourself to get overwhelmed. Move on and do not get misaligned from your target, essentially.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Chris. Talk to you guys later. Bye bye.
Try doing as much as you can do. Bye.